Welcome back to D All of the Above, a podcast about everything. Today I'm joined by the one and only Miss Ginger. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It's a good day. It's a Saturday. The sun is shining, and I'm in the middle of a gigantic home renovation still. So I was
Nice.
covered in dust yesterday.
All right, so first things first,
hmm
being a Canadian, I have to bring it up.
Okay.
What the fuck is going on up there?
I wish I could tell you. I
Because
wish I could.
episode 1, as you saw, was with Little Yesh, and that's everybody
Mhm.
else that's, tuning in. We talked about Canada because that was with the C10 law and the essentially just the over censorship that the Canadian government was trying to do and pass in the middle of the night like a bunch of, sketchy robbers.
hmm
But, and I haven't really kept much tabs on it, but from the sound of it, between my other Canadian friends and also your Twitter,
hmm
by the way, Twitter handle at a handy ginger gal. Just go look it up. You'll appreciate it. What the fuck? Like what is actually happening?
I wish I could answer that question because it's been baffling me for several years now. I used to be really, really politically active, like really politically active. The last few years, I've kind of had to step back from it because it's too stressful. And the biggest reason is because in this country, I am completely and utterly unrepresented. So for me, it's especially frustrating. I mean, the truth is, there's not really much that I identify with politically. I'm fairly individualist. Like I like to make a joke, but it's only half of a joke that I'm like on one side of the Unabomber, just like his instincts without the homicidal impulses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the it would take nothing at all for me. I would not even think twice about just leaving everything behind, taking a couple of hand tools into the woods and vanishing, right? And that would be fine for me. So that's where I am on the political spectrum, pretty much. Just leave me alone. So I already, just from the nature of Canadian identity, period, don't really belong here. But the last few years has gotten way, way worse. Way worse. I mean, the conservatives used to be, I guess, close enough to what I could stomach, but they're still very centrist, and that's too much for me, right? Like I too much government is any government as far as I'm concerned for the most part.
So I mean, Canada
So
is a two-party system, correct?
pretty
Kind of.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they like to talk about NDP like they matter, but they really don't. They haven't. They matter right now because they hold the balance of power, right? Because with Justin Trudeau in, I believe it's minority right now. I haven't even been keeping track lately. Um, he needs to pander to them to get votes across, right? But it works. So a party that has very little actual seats, very few seats, can hold the balance of power because the government needs them to get anything they want. So
I
that's,
feel like
and they're
all
further left.
I feel like
So,
all Trudeau does is pander. Is just run his mouth
oh,
when
100%.
when I feel like he's just like Trump and he just sometimes needs to shut the fuck up. Just stop talking.
I would love that. I really would.
I feel like a lot of
I,
politicians just need to stop talking.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of politicians in general.
I mean, because here in America, uh, our two-party system, as I'm sure you can keep tabs with on the wonderful world of Twitter, um, it's terrifying to me because I'm a history buff. I like history,
Mhm.
um, and I look back, and what really struck a nerve with me. Well, one of the many things that struck a nerve with me was when the current administration came out and said, "Oh, we're the government and we're on help is on the way." And it just makes me think to when Ronald Reagan said the 9 scariest words in the human language are "We are from the government. We're here to help."
I couldn't agree more.
And I mean,
Really.
honestly, and I think we can both see it both in Canada and the U.S. The government is starting to overreach their bounds.
Starting?
More, well,
Oh,
yeah, not
wow.
starting. They're just
You're
doing it.
generous.
They're just doing it more and more. Like every breath, every other breath that we're taking, they're just like,
Mhm.
how can we tax that oxygen you're breathing?
Well, that's what it's like here for sure. I mean, the thing is, I keep trying to explain to people I that take a more, I mean, maybe I'm just too intolerant or what have you. But there's people that think, oh, that's it. Politicians, I'm removed from that, right? Like they don't really affect me. If I don't pay attention, it's not a big deal, right? And but then I try to explain to them, think about a single thing you do in a day that's not affected by a decision they make or a policy they make. There's nothing anymore,
Or
right? I
tax.
can't build a shed in my backyard, right? Without a permit. Right. So some places where we used to live, like not the town we're in now is pretty good, but the town we lived in before, I couldn't even paint my front door whatever color I wanted. Right. They had rules about what colors you could make it. Right. Some neighborhoods, they won't let you paint your door a color that's different from everybody else's. Like there's rules like that. It's ridiculous.
So
Your own property.
so you have regional Karens essentially.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Municipal level, right? Like you guys have them too. Just think about HOAs, but on like steroids, right? That's basically what it's yeah.
No,
On
no,
the same
okay.
way.
Well, see, we have a town here because
Uh-huh.
I'll dox myself. I don't care. I live in South Carolina.
Hmm.
There's a town called Cane Bay. And there's all these nice big developments in Cane Bay. If you own a house in Cane Bay, you pay your neighborhood HOA and then you pay the Cane Bay HOA
Oh wow.
to keep up, to maintain the landscape around the Publix and all that and the parks. And I'm like, but don't y'all also pay taxes? And,
Yep.
and
I bet they do.
public parks are local government owned, public access. So shouldn't that be paid for through the tax? Hold on a minute. And I'm just like, what? See, like you said earlier,
Yeah.
Disappearing into the woods with a bunch of tools. I don't see a problem with that.
No.
Being
That wouldn't be a
self-sufficient,
problem for me.
I have no issue with that. I don't need daddy government to hold my hand and tell me how to do shit. No.
I want to
I
like
got
I
this.
want to shake these people and say, walk into your average. Like for us, it's the drivers like MTO, but for you guys, it's what is it called? The place where you get your driver's license.
Oh, DMV.
Yeah, okay. Walk into your average DMV and just take anybody behind the counter, any random somebody who works there, and ask yourself if you want them making decisions about your life. Because that's what they are, right? That's what the government is.
Hold on,
It's
you
your
guys
average.
you guys have people behind the counters?
You don't have people behind the counter?
We're lucky if we have out of the 10 stalls at the counter, we're lucky if there's 2 of them.
But still, right? Like your average more bureaucrats hold more power than your average politician for the most part.
Mhm.
And so when you're thinking about like, I'm relatively familiar with the way laws get passed down there, right? Like actually, I generally actually know more about American politics than Canadian ones for a long time. They were always more interesting. But the way laws get passed here, they pass like a broad law that is just the broad strokes. And in the law, they write in it that the details will be worked out by committee members later, they're all just bureaucrats. They're not even the elected officials. So things like enforcement and things like the fine details of what is and is not falling under the law and penalties and whatnot, they're not decided in the law when it's passed. They're not decided by the people you elect. They're decided by the bureaucrats that never change. They're there for the rest of their life until they retire on their gold-plated pensions. And then those are the people making the decisions.
Those gold-plated pensions that they made off the back of, like me and you.
Yeah.
Which I just have to say,
Yeah.
I absolutely love your shirt. Freedom
Thank
over
you.
everything. At first I was like, freedom everything. Yeah. Oh, it's freedom over. I got
It's
it.
like one of those Mensa tests.
Yeah, see, I'm also a smooth brain idiot. I bang knuckles, I turn wrenches, and I call it a day. And I lift heavy things. That's
The real
just all I
question
do.
is, can you read it over the distraction of my breasts?
Oh yeah, that's because
Because that's a challenge for some.
For me, once you've seen a pair, they all pretty much it's
Dude,
boobs. I mean, they're all
Dude,
different,
why are you gonna
but
do me like that?
I don't stare at the chesticles themselves. I like to look at t-shirts. As you can see, I'm wearing, a crane
I like
Hawaiian
yours.
shirt.
It's very fancy.
Because I try to represent the Boogaloo Boys on here. Haha. But no, because like you find yourself as more of an like you said, individualist.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to identify more with the libertarian policies.
Yes,
where
I'm
it's-
very libertarian.
where it's like, hey, look, man, we want the ability for a gay couple that owns a bakery to grow weed in their backyard and protect that weed with tanks.
Sure.
Because why
Why not?
The victimless crime. Oh, well, you were jaywalking. Is there a victim? No. All right, cool. And a lot of it, and I actually found this on a libertarian page on Facebook. It was, if a crime has a fine, then it's designed for the lower class.
For sure.
And I
Oh
was
yeah, I
like,
actually saw that in a tweet this
I was
morning.
like, oh shit. I was
It's a
like,
tax on the poor.
I was like, you have
Because
a valid
for rich
fucking
people,
point.
they can afford it. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
They'll do whatever they want and they don't care.
Mhm.
But those of us who are not rich, right? That's a real penalty for us because for
Oh,
some
yeah.
people it can be a real problem.
Nowadays, $300 is a lot to
Mhm.
some people.
Mhm.
And it's,
Here's a good example. My husband once got a ticket because the ownership, the little green slip for his car, he got stopped for speeding. The speeding ticket I get, right? But he got another ticket because the ownership wasn't signed. He didn't have his signature on the line that says signature. That ticket was $160. Who is injured by this?
okay, hold
What
on,
is
hold
the
on.
problem with this?
$160 ticket
Yep.
for an ownership, essentially a registration that has his name on it, that he has a
Yep.
license with his name on it, that
Yeah,
has a
for
picture
the
that
car he
matches
was
his
driving,
face.
yeah.
But because he didn't put some chicken
Sign it.
scratch, it's a
Yep.
$160 ticket.
Yeah. You know what's even better? When he forgot to pay it, they suspended his driver's license. Yep. Tell me
It's
how that injures anybody. Tell me how that helps society. That money doesn't even go to roads. I'm telling you right now.
okay. That's another thing. Tolls. Okay, they have toll roads and they collect tolls to help repair the road. But then everything you're taxed in goes towards infrastructure. So then why do I have to pay a toll if I pay taxes?
Wow.
It's
Because construction workers are
literal
unionized and
highway
they get a lot
robbery.
of money.
It is just absolute literal highway robbery.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
I don't have good jokes. Listeners, viewers, buckle up. You should know by now that I don't have good jokes. Deal with it.
That's okay.
You came here to listen to us talk. Deal with my bad jokes. So, I mean, so being tired of Canada, wanting to disappear.
Yep.
I know because I've kept up with the wonderful Twitter.
Yep.
That you're trying to go to Costa Rica, but if I remember correctly, you're renovating your home so that way you can move. But you're renovating your home because you may or may not have. I cannot. Neither one of us can confirm nor deny that you slightly had a fire issue.
I burned my house down.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't
Well,
gonna
not
say it.
down. It still stood, but
Yeah.
no, I burned my house down. Oh, it's pretty well known. Yeah, I woke up one morning because I work nights, so I was sleeping. It was like 11 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up with my house on fire. So
That's a great alarm clock.
yeah, I
Bacon?
did. I slept right through the smoke detectors because I work nights and day sleeps really hard. I have noise canceling headphones on. I had a fan running, had the doors all closed, right? Like I was knocked out. A couple of sleeping pills. I was out. So I slept right through the smoke detectors. I woke up because the smoke got thick enough. I started coughing and it shook my body awake enough that I noticed the smell and I'm like, what is that?
That's one of those moments that'll make your asshole pucker from to about half of its original size.
I nearly
That's,
shit my pants.
that's what we like to call the pucker
lie.
factor. Is
Oh, it was brutal.
how intense of a situation can make your asshole pucker the tightest.
People say, "Oh, you never know how you're going to react in a life or death crisis situation." Well, now I know.
You'll see, and a lot of people
I
say
move
that,
faster than I ever thought I knew I could move.
but I feel like 99% of the population in any kind of emergency situation, they're going to shit themselves.
Mm.
I know I would. I'll tell you straight up. I'm going to shit it. I'm going to shit right in my pants. Because guess what? I can replace my pants. I can't replace me.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, it
So,
was pretty bad.
so you got that. You're doing the renovation,
Mm-hmm.
trying to move to Costa Rica. To get the fuck out of Canada.
Yeah.
But why Costa Rica, of all places?
Oh, that's a good question. So we originally settled on Italy. We were going to go to Italy because we really like what we see about Italy. The properties were reasonably inexpensive, and we really, really want to travel a lot, and we wanted somewhere that was sort of centrally located so we could get into a car and travel to many of the places we want to see without having to worry about airplanes, and you know what I mean? Because it gets costly when you start having to fly.
Yeah.
So we started making plans to go to Italy. My husband started learning Italian, and I started talking to immigration lawyers for Italy and doing our research. And we started to realize that the bureaucracy in Italy is worse than here. And the immigration bureaucracy is even worse than that. It was so bad that we scrapped that whole plan and said, Italy, I mean, it's funny because you read our newspaper articles about how they want to give away houses for like $1 because they want people to come.
I was about
Do you
to
know
say,
why?
I saw a TikTok the other day where it's like, hey, you can buy a house for like hella cheap, but you have to renovate it and you have to start renovating it within 3 months and you have to
That's
have it
not
done in
even the
3
worst
years.
part.
And I
And
was like,
that's bad. Don't get me wrong, but that's not even the worst part. So here's my message to anybody who's in the Italian bureaucracy. You know why people don't come there? Because you don't want them. Because you make it clear you don't want them. All we wanted to do was sell our house, take all of our money and move there, right? And then spend the rest of our life spending our money there. But couple things. In order to get immigrant status, you have to have registered pension income, and it's the only income that counts. However much money you have in the bank doesn't matter. It has to be in a registered retirement pension, and you have to prove that you can take $38,000 a year from it. That's not a huge deal, except like most of our money would be from the sale of our house, so it won't count for anything,
yeah.
right? But also, you can't make any other money anywhere, right? And we make some money from our online stuff, right? I make money from from the YouTube pages and from some other things online, not with an Italian company. That would not be allowed. Well, why? I'm
Why
making that money from elsewhere and
and you're
I'm
going
spending
to, I
it
was about to say,
here
and you're going to take that money and use it in
in Italy.
that country.
Yeah. No, not allowed. So, and the worst one, okay, here's the worst one was when I found out about their driver's license programs. So I've been driving since I was 16. That's 31 years. Okay. I've been driving for 31 years. And when I go there, my driver's license is only good for a year. And then I have to get an Italian driver's license. No big deal, except you have to start like a brand new driver. You have to take the Italian driver's test and you have to take it in Italian. And from what I've read about, I've been on a ton of Facebook pages from expats and whatnot that the Italian driver's test is ridiculously difficult to pass, right? And even if you do pass it, for the first 3 years that you drive, they limit the size of the engine in the car that you drive, like a brand new driver. And anybody who knows me knows I love to drive. It's one of my, I seriously entertained being a professional driver when I was young. And the prospect that I may not be able to pass that test and I may not be able to drive in my new home was just enough. I said to my husband, that's it. Italy's not the place for us.
Yeah,
It's
no.
just no way.
Limit the size of the engine.
You know,
That
well, they have
that would
rules,
break
right?
my heart. Like, because I'm a big American. I like V8s.
Yeah.
I drive. I'm building a LS3 swapped Chevy Colorado. I drive
Nice.
a 6.6 liter Duramax turbo diesel. Like, I like big engines. I like
Yeah, yeah.
power. So you mean to tell me that I can only run like a 1.8
Well,
liter V6?
you wouldn't even be able to drive any of those there anyway because the streets are too small.
Yeah, I
Right?
wouldn't be
Like
able to
some of
fit
those cars,
anything.
you're not even allowed to drive at all. All I wanted was a Jeep. I have a Jeep right now. All I want was a Jeep, and that wouldn't be allowed. So that just made Italy, that was it. So we had to start over. Where do we go now? And so we had a few places on the list. And it ended up being just because for ease of access, right? Like ease to get in and lack of interference once we lived there, Costa Rica kind of just tipped it over the scales. It had pretty much everything we wanted. We wanted to not have to deal with snow anymore. We wanted somewhere, we're huge adventure types. We like to hike and stuff, but like not even just your average hiking, has to be pretty extreme. So we were looking for somewhere where we could do a lot of that. Costa Rica definitely has a lot of that.
A lot of mountains.
And yeah, the mountains, the volcanoes and waterfalls, there's tons of everything there. And it's reasonably cheap to live. It's probably I think I read that it's the most expensive Central and South American country there is, but it's still, compared to Canada, really cheap, right?
Yeah.
So, and they're more than happy to take all of our money, no problem, right? Like as long as we come there and buy property, they're like, come,
Yeah.
please live
Come,
there.
please spend money.
They
Boost
don't
our
have
economy.
a standing army, so it's nice, and they're considered, I guess, the Switzerland of Central America because they're basically fairly passive. And to be honest, it has a lot of appeal. Lots of people will say, "Oh, well, it's like the third world, right? You're gonna do without all of your services." Oh, please, I beg you, wouldn't that be great?
Oh, wait. I won't have a direct link to, like the American or Canadian news network. So then I wouldn't have to listen to all the bullshit? What?
Just, you know what? I'm happy to go somewhere where the government is far enough behind that they're not well enough organized to seriously interfere with my life, right?
And
Like
to impede freedoms.
exactly. In places like that, often the government is generally happy to leave you alone as long as you don't make them work too hard, right? Like if you don't bother them for things and they can just collect their paycheck and lounge around and wait till the workday ends, they're happy to just leave you alone for the most part. So I kind of want us sober. And shopping for property has been amazing, right? Like we've been looking everywhere and there's no shortage of things that I would like as soon as I got on the ground say, yes, let's buy it, right?
Yes, that one. I'll take it.
Well, Mike only cares as long as we get in the mountains because he needs elevation because he doesn't like heat too much. And Costa Rica has plenty of heat, but up in the mountains, it's like average temperatures 24 Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. I'm sorry, I don't do the math very well. It's temperate.
It's warm.
Right? Yeah.
We'll just go with that. See,
but not stupid hot.
See, my mom's side of the family is from Texas. My dad's side of the family is from Georgia. I was born and raised in Louisiana. I live in South Carolina. I love the heat. I would much rather be hot than cold because, like, yeah, you can only take off so many clothes. You can always put more on. Yeah, but if I put more on, then I'm going to be uncomfortable.
Right?
I will walk around in my boxers. I don't care.
The closer to naked I can get, the better.
Because look, here's the way I look at it. If you like what you see, I accept tips. If you don't look. That's as simply as I can put it.
We
if
have
you
the
don't
same
like what
philosophy.
you see, yeah. If you don't like what you see, don't look. If you do, I accept tips. Look, I have no shame. There's no shame in this game.
Put that as a reply. Some of the comments we get on our YouTube channel like to comment on sometimes some of my outfits. That's a good response. I'm going to save that.
Which I was looking at. And by the way, this is another plug. Deal with it.
Yeah.
So Miss Ginger here has a YouTube channel where she goes over music with her husband, Mike, and it's called Play It Again with Mike and Ginger. And I will say I was scrolling through there this morning looking at thumbnails, and look at that. We got a mug right there.
See it.
Yes.
It's too much glare.
Well, you know what?
It's all the millions of lights I have to put so you can't see my wrinkles.
You know what that means? That means you're just going to have to click the link in the description and go check out the YouTube channel. Boom. So speaking of cars, you do work on a lot of your own, but you just work on your own vehicles.
Yep.
And you can also see that on another YouTube channel. Yes, I said another one. Go click the link called A Ginger in the Wild: Tales of an Adventure Wife. So this is where I have to bring in the joke.
Sure.
Where can I purchase a calibrated breaker bar?
I wouldn't know. Now I know that joke came from your dad.
Yeah, we were.
Nobody's giving me shit like your dad has for using my torque wrench as a breaker bar for my lug nuts.
I saw it and I was like, I'm not going to touch it. I was like, nope. No, because I was like, she still has to come on the show. I'm not going to make her angry before she comes on.
That doesn't make me mad.
No, he was.
Guys give me shit for that all the time. But you know what? Okay, so here's the story about that torque wrench. I don't have a breaker bar, but I was using the regular wrench that came with the car to take the lugs off. I was stranded on the side of the road in the country one time. I was on my way to work. It was like 8 o'clock at night and flat tire. So I can change the tire, no problem. I don't need to call anybody for that. But I had a huge problem because once I got the lug nuts off, the tire was seized onto the hub, right? Like the rust, it sometimes
yeah,
it gets stuck there, right? And these don't have I don't got a lot of strength up here. So like wrenching it wasn't working. So I needed leverage on it, but I didn't have anything that was going to do that. But I had my torque wrench. So I took it and I used it like a hammer, right? To just bang on the edge of the wheel to try to pop it off. And it worked, but it broke the torque on my wrench.
Yeah, that
But I mean, it's that, or I'm still stuck at the side of the road and I can't get the friggin' tire off, right? Like,
well, look, I'll let you in on a little secret. I will use anything as any tool I need. Everything
whatever
is a
gets the
hammer.
job done. Oh, yeah.
And look, and
you know what? I bought another one.
See,
so now I have a broken one that I use as a breaker bar. So now I don't have to buy a breaker bar.
See, and you didn't use the torque wrench as a hammer. You just happened to perform percussive maintenance.
You know what's funny though? When I didn't have my torque wrench, I did have an axe in the trunk of my car. I used that one time too to take the tire off. I don't know why the tires get seized on my cars all the time, but it happens all the time for me. One of the dumbest mistakes I ever made. I was hammering. I had the sledge, like a mini sledge, and I was hammering to try to loosen it up, right? And I ended up hitting the is it the axle post?
Oh, the axle pin?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just smacked the threads right on the edge, just a little, and they blossomed out a bit. I could not get the axle nut back on. I spent probably 6 hours chiseling away at this thing with my Dremel tool and every other tool I could think of just to try to clean up the thread of it. Was right at the beginning, so it couldn't. I couldn't
even
get
the
started.
started thread.
No, because if it was a little bit further in, I'd get it started and I'd just wrench it over.
Yeah,
right?
wrench it through it and you'd clean up the thread.
For sure. But also, right, like I never intended to ever take it off again. So I was like, if it never comes off, who cares, right? Because the car was it's probably about a year from its last legs. So I didn't care if I ever got it off again. I just needed to get it on, but it was right at the beginning and I could not get this nut on. I finally eventually got it, but it was such a stupid mistake, right? Like it just one of those dumb things. And then
shit happens.
Spent 6 hours of my life trying to fix it.
Yeah, see, over the years, I've learned that if you ever go to work on a car or literally anything, because, I work on airplanes for a living, I build airplanes. If you think a job is going to take, say, an hour, go ahead and prep for it to take 10 hours. Like, just go ahead.
For sure. Car was a Hyundai Santa Fe. And it was great to work on, actually. Hyundai's a really good car. We've had a couple and I really liked them, but it was leaking oil like crazy and I couldn't figure out why. And I thought maybe the main seal needed replacing. I was like, oh God, that's the worst job, right? I was like, no. Then I found out that it was just the oil pressure switch. And I was so excited. I was like, oh, that's just a little switch, no problem, right? Then I don't have to take it all apart and change the main seal. Do you have any idea where that oil pressure switch is?
On a Hyundai, no, I don't, but I can imagine it's in the worst place possible.
Yeah, I had to take off almost the entire top half of the engine, right? The manifold and everything. The fuel rods all had to come off. Like I had to there's like 12 wiring harnesses to unconnect, and then it was buried under the fuel rods. Just this tiny little part, maybe this big, and it cost $13. But it took 3 days outside in December to pull the engine apart just to get to where I had to put it.
December in Canada?
Yes.
Mm.
And I don't have a garage.
Mm.
It was bad. Most of my spheres are in man spaces, right? Like the driving and the fixing cars and doing renovations and whatnot, right? Like I'll throw on dirty jeans and pick up tools and bang up my knuckles with just about anybody.
I mean, hell, you're more of a man than most men these days.
I have been accused, it's true. But also, right? Like I'm that person that I'll be out in the driveway working on the car, banging up my knuckles, and then it's time to get ready and go out for dinner with my husband, and I put on a ball gown, right? And like I clean up pretty good. But to me, being a proper feminine woman means being able to incorporate those several facets into like a full personality, right? Where you a lot of the trad feminine movement is kind of stuck in the woman shouldn't drive and she shouldn't work and oh, I let the man do that. I've had some women give me crap about working on the car and why aren't you letting your husband do that? What like the last time I worked on the car, I almost lost my arm because it fell off the jack and I forgot to chalk the wheels. Just yeah, I know. I had them chalked and then I took it for a test drive and I realized I had more work to do. So I brought it back home, but I was so mad. I was wrenching on that on the torque wrench and I forgot to chalk the wheels and it fell. And I moved fast enough that if I hadn't, I would have lost my arm. And one of my Twitter peeps said, "Oh, well, you should let your husband do that because if you lost your arm, the $1,300 you saved, well, your arm's worth way more than that." And I felt like saying to her, "Well, my husband's arm is worth even more."
Yeah.
Right? Like, to be fair, he makes double what I do at his job. If he lost an arm, we'd be dead, right? Like we'd be sunk. So if one of us is going to lose an arm, it's actually better if it's me.
I mean, hindsight, viewers and listeners, please don't try this at home. Safety moment here. Chalk your wheels.
Chalk your wheels before you jack your car. Absolutely.
Sometimes you're in a hurry. Sometimes you're angry. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I forgot.
That's honestly one of my biggest fears is when I'm under a car working on it. Like now I jack it up and I put, like the stationary jack stands there and I leave the jack still somewhat jacked just in case it does fall. It's a secondary buffer.
Yeah, I always do.
Just because I'm terrified. But when I'm also, most of the time I'm working on my Duramax and that thing weighs almost 10,000 pounds. Yeah. Yeah.
But so my point is a lot of them get stuck in the roles and a lot of guys do too, right? Like I get crap from guys all the time about me not being feminine enough, right? My husband has no complaints, okay? Because anybody that can go from lingerie like I do to under the car fixing their brakes, right? Like I don't understand this concept that a lot of the trads got that women back in the day, right? Did nothing but bake and wear bows in their hair. Because like the last time I checked, pioneer women, they were out there, they were tilling the field, right? They were up there on the roof building the house with their husband. Like
they were doing just as much work.
Exactly. They were doing all the hard stuff too, right? It was
that
a
was
team
true
effort.
Equality.
Yeah. So that's my take on it is like, if I'm going to leave any legacy behind, I want the people who knew me to say, if they say nothing else, I want them to say I was useful, right? Like if there's a problem, I'm going to come up with a solution for it. Sometimes the solution will be creative, right? Sometimes it'll end up being a bigger mess than we started with, but I'm always going to come up with a solution. And I don't care whose job it is, right? Like our family's a team effort. We couldn't have even accomplished our family without it. We raised 6 kids. You can't silo off, oh, this is your job and this is your job. with a family that large, it's everybody pitches in or nobody wins, right?
Yeah.
So,
So
but you
that
can do that and still look pretty.
oh yeah,
It's possible.
100%. Look, the mantra that I live by is if they can't find you handsome, they better find you handy. And I'm really good at that second part, and I'm not very skilled in the first part. It is what it is. I usually look like I'm
Oh,
dog
you'd be
ass
fine.
tired. I've got sunken in eyes with large raccoon circles around them because I'm tired, and I work second shift. I
I
work
don't
from
see that
2:30
over
p.m.
there.
to 11 p.m. So I feel the night shift struggle. Except it sounds like you work later, like you work in the middle of the night.
Yeah, I work, my shift is usually 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. So they're 12-hour overnights. I'm
Yeah,
currently on sick leave because I've wrecked my back and I can't work, but normally
you
when
gotta
I
be,
do work, yeah,
you gotta
that's
be
what I work.
careful with the back, man. The back is the key to everything.
I'm starting to realize this. I really am. Like it was fine. I had no trouble until last October, and I suddenly had a lot of trouble. Went to the chiropractor and find out I have a very serious problem. And I've been trying to fix it ever since, and it's just not getting a lot better. It's part of the reason why we want to pack everything up and retire as well, as just
Go live the good
to
life.
relax a little.
Hey,
Yeah.
you've worked. Now it's
I'm
time to
40,
enjoy it.
I'm almost 48. So it's way too young to be as debilitated as I
Viewers
am.
and listeners, don't let her fool you. I doubt that. I sincerely doubt that age. I'm gonna say
I would
like,
never lie about it.
24,
Thank
24 more
oh
like.
God. Nobody likes a liar.
Yeah, but everybody loves a flatterer.
No, I don't need flattery. My age doesn't bother me at all. I It's never bothered me before. How I feel is what's bothering me. I feel 80, right? And that's where it becomes a problem. But yeah, I've never worried about my
You
age.
But that leads me to the last question for today.
No,
It's a little bit off the wall.
there's
And
nothing I won't answer.
this one is it. I did mention earlier about taking a break, and so this is kind of bad, but I wanted to start doing this with all my guests. Is
Oh.
what is your favorite memory of all time? Your favorite number one memory?
Oh my God, that's a really hard question. I don't know. It's a really, really hard question. I don't know. There's so many because I mean, the truth is, you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who enjoys life more than me, right? Like there's so many things that I love, right? Like I get so excited about even the simplest things. Um, like I feel amazing whenever I accomplish something, whenever I figure out a particularly tough problem. And then there's all the stuff with my kids. Like my kids are huge for me. Absolutely. There's nothing I like doing without them. Straight up, right? Like even when they were little, lots of parents complain about toddlers, right? Oh, I can't wait till they go back to school or whatever. I was never like that. I was like, if I went anywhere, I wanted to have them with me. It was so much fun. Everything.
But from the sound of it, it seems like life in general for you is your favorite memory. It's just all of
Oh
them.
my God. Yeah. Anytime that I can just enjoy it, right? Like our wedding day was pretty good because we had everybody together, right? Our kids were our wedding party. And that was so great to have them all there. And they all felt kind of special because they were all dressed up and they're all kind of part of the show, sort of thing. That was really fun. But then there's all the silly little moments with them, right? Like I used to bake cupcakes with the kids. We'd do cupcake decorating all the time. Um, you know what? When I think about it though, one thing that took me a little bit by surprise and actually really, really kind of made my year, I guess. It's silly because it might sound silly. So it has a little story. My kids were little when Mike and I first got together, and our kids were little. We lived in Brampton, which is near here, but not where we live now. There was a little boy down the street named Jamar. Um, Sweet little boy. He was maybe 6 or 7, and he used to come over and play all the time. My kids loved playing with this little boy. He was such a sweet little guy, but he was always at our house, and nobody ever came looking for him, right? Like I knew where he lived and I knew he had family, but they didn't seem to be troubled about where he was all the time. And he'd just sort of wander over and then spend the whole day. And I'd say, "Would you like to stay for dinner?" And he'd say, "Sure." And I'd say, "Do you want to call your mom and check?" He's like, "No, it'll be fine." And he was right. It was always fine. And we didn't mind having him, but I worried about him all the time, right? Because I would have never let any of my kids be gone that long at a stranger's house without at least knocking on the door and introducing myself so I knew who these people were.
Yeah.
But I knew he was safe with us, so I didn't worry too much about it. But then one day he says to us, "Well, we're moving." And I said, "Oh, well, I'll have to get in touch with your mom before you go and make sure get information where you're going to so we can keep in touch." The kids would like to keep in touch. And I thought it wasn't a big deal because there was no for sale sign on the lawn or anything. And I thought I would have time. And then like a week later, he was gone. They were gone. They had skipped out on the mortgage and they had a foreclosure sign on the door
Mm.
and they apparently gutted the place and took off. And I felt terrible. My kids were devastated. Especially my youngest son Gabe, who is his best friend. They were so upset. And I felt terrible because I was like, if I'd known, I would have tried to contact her sooner. I just thought I'd have time, right? I
Yeah.
thought they were going to do it like normal people do it. And then I always worried about him after. It's been like 15 years. And every once in a while I would worry about him. I would think about him, right? Like what happened to this little boy? Because like our place was his safe place,
Yeah.
pretty much, I thought. And I didn't know what happened to him after. And one day I thought about him and I thought, oh, I'm just going to check and see if I can. I only knew his first name. I didn't even know his last
And that
name.
was it.
I did a check on Facebook and I found him. I couldn't believe I found him. And I checked a couple times before, I never had before, but I found it. Well, I found this boy looked just like him. And he was from the same place and it had the same first name. And I thought, oh, so I sent him a message. I said, I don't know if you're the right person and I don't know if you'll remember us, but, and I gave him a little rundown of who we were. And he got right back to me like within an hour or two. And he said, yes, I do remember you. He goes, I loved coming to your house. And I'm going to tear up a little.
I'm gonna have to use that as clickbait. Ginger cries again.
They love it when I cry. But anyway, and he said, I want to thank you for being so good to me. Your family was always welcomed me like I was part of the family. You always made me feel welcome and I really, really enjoyed coming to your house. And I really appreciate how good you were to me. So,
Shit, you're gonna make me tear up. Shit.
I know. I cannot tell you how much I worried about this boy. For 15 years, I worried about what happened to him.
And you probably
Right?
changed the
'Cause
course of his life.
I don't know. I don't know if that's possible, but I certainly like to have him say that because, well, we went through a lot of struggles with our kids. We had two really terrible divorces. I had my son, Gabe, that was friends with Jamar, was alienated from me for about 6 years. So there was a lot of days when I doubted what kind of mom I was, wondering if we were good people or if we really were as terrible as the kids sometimes felt. So to have him say that really made me feel pretty good. Like maybe we weren't so bad, right?
It's just it
So,
validated.
well, I mean, our kids don't feel like that most of the time, but they had it pretty good, right? Like we were very present parents all the time.
Mhm.
And as difficult as other things were, my kids never worried about being safe, right? They weren't worried about whether or not they were going to have what they needed. So sometimes I think it takes seeing a kid that doesn't get that, how they respond to it, that really changes the perspective a little. So that memory sticks in my mind a lot because it was one of those things that you, you don't always know the effect that you have on people. And it's very rare for most people to find out the effect that they've, like, to discover exactly the extent of the effect that they have on other people, especially when it's positive. You meet up with somebody, you have an experience with them, and then you move on. And for you, it seems minor, or right, just
Or just in the grand
average.
scheme, it might seem.
And then, but if you never come across them again, you never realize sometimes how big your impact is. So to hear that from him was just incredible. It really,
Shit,
it,
you almost jerked. Almost got one out of me. Almost. You almost got one tear out of me.
oh, it's
That's
just one of those things, right? Like, it hit at exactly the time when I needed to hear it, because at that time things were getting really, really bad in our life, right? Like, we were starting to get snowed under with some really negative things. So to have that happen, like, not only to reinforce for me that he was okay, right, but also that he remembered us as a positive impact in his life, it really kind of buoyed me back up to where I could kind of handle the stuff we were going through at the time.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, I guess it's weird that one of my favorite memories doesn't even involve anybody from my family, but
I
yeah,
mean,
that was,
that's a hell of a memory. Like, for the first guest to answer the favorite memory question, that is a hell of a memory. I don't think anybody's going to be able to top that. I mean, that's a hell of a memory. That was a wonderful, wonderful story.
thank
that
you.
was a perfect way to wrap up today's episode. I did mention a few things earlier. We've got your Twitter, which is at a handy ginger gal. That's the Twitter handle. Go into Twitter, hit the little magnifying glass, put at a handy ginger gal. It's pretty simple. Just do it, or you can click the link down in the description,
Not
both in the audio.
not handsy.
Yeah, not
ginger
handsy.
girl.
We don't do that.
There's too many letters.
That's a different. That's a different account, but not
That's
for
my
Miss Ginger.
OnlyFans. No, I'm just joking. I don't have an OnlyFans.
don't
Of
go look it
course,
up.
I have some people accuse me of using the YouTube as an OnlyFans channel. It's
Fuck
like,
them. That's what I say.
I had one guy that said that. You have to comment, is this an OnlyFans channel now? So I replied back. I said, are you paying me for nudes? Because I haven't seen the check yet.
Start sending me $20 a month. Find out.
Maybe.
So we've got We've got another YouTube channel, or we got one YouTube channel, A Ginger in the Wild, Tales of an Adventure Wife, and we've got the other one with the music. If you like music, like seeing reactions to music, go check out Play It Again with Mike and Ginger. And like I said before, I'm going to have all the links down in the description, both in the audio and video format of this episode. Miss Ginger, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was an absolute blast.
Thank you for having me.
Look forward to maybe bringing you on again and talking about some more issues, and maybe just talking more shit about the Canadian government, because I like to do that being an American.
Hopefully I'll be doing it from elsewhere.
Yeah, hopefully. I've got my fingers crossed for you, definitely.
Then I don't have to worry about the commissars knocking on the door, because right now that's a real possibility.
I mean, I feel like the rest of the world might be trying to follow suit of Australia, but we're going to save that for another episode of conspiracy theories and government backdoors and all the stupid shit I believe in.
Yes, I'll wait till I'm in a freer place before I comment on that.
Yeah, we'll have to wait till there's no censorship laws anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
But thank you again, Miss Ginger. It was an absolute blast. I look forward to talking to you some more. Viewers, listeners, don't forget, click those links. I'm not asking you to. I'm telling you, go hit the links down in the description. Go show some love on both YouTube channels and the Twitter page for Miss Ginger here. It's greatly appreciated. And plus, they got cool content, man. Like, just do it. Like, I'm not asking. I'm telling you. Just do it.
Even just for entertainment purposes, because we're dorky and funny.
Well, that's the only way to be. Normal people scare me. All right. So with that, thanks everybody. We'll catch you next time. Remember, be kind to one another. Don't be a shitty human.
Amen.
That,